Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Startup Sense podcast. This is your host, Jonah Lupton, and we have another great episode for you today. Do me a quick favor, though, and subscribe to the Startup Sense podcast on iTunes or Google Play, and that way you never miss an episode. You can also subscribe to our email newsletter via our website, startupsense.net. Okay, to today's show. So our guest is Tony Corrigan. He is the founder of a company called Tenderscout, and they're actually based in Dublin. So we are skipping over to Ireland today. And on the pre-call, we went through a lot of the stuff. What we're going to talk about today is certainly the story of Tenderscout, what problem they're solving, what types of clients they work with, how much money they've raised, and then we'll talk a little bit about what the Dublin startup scene looks like. I've been over there once, and it's really cool and exciting. All the big tech giants are over there, and they've created quite an ecosystem. So let's welcome Tony. Tony, how are you, man?
Good afternoon. How are you today?
I'm doing great. So before we talk about Tenderscout, tell us about yourself. What were you doing before you started this company?
So I guess I started out as a programmer working with IBM, and I spent 7 or 8 years in the enterprise machine, ending up as a pre-sales consultant. That's where I got my first taste of competing for business through the form of a document. I moved on from there to become head of production in an internet startup around the time of the dot-com bust, as it turned out. And since then, I've been working around this idea of helping companies win contracts using technology.
Awesome. So that kind of leads us into what exactly does Tenderscout do?
So Tenderscout is a SaaS product. It is designed to help professional services organizations primarily to compete for government contracts and to win more government contracts than they currently are.
So how big is the government contract space? And you can put it in terms of just Europe or US or global, whatever you want, whatever you got numbers for.
Sure. Well, the total market size is about $3 trillion. What people tend not to realize is that 1 in every 5, and in some countries 1 in every 4 contracts is a government contract. One of the reasons that we started the company is because an awful lot of businesses don't really realize that opportunity is there. They tend to focus on private sector contracts, ignoring what could be another 25% of their revenue stream for doing exactly the same work.
Right. Okay, so you started this company when?
So we started the company, I guess the ideation was around 2012. We got our first funding in April 2014 from Enterprise Ireland. And that's really, I guess, where we started from.
Okay, and that was just a little bit of money though, right? That was under 100,000?
That was 50,000 euros, so about $60,000.
Okay, and you guys recently just closed on a larger round, correct?
So we've just closed out a larger round just yesterday with Growing Capital. So Growing Capital are a venture capital firm based out of Ireland, and they're part of a round of what would be about $600,000.
Awesome. How did you guys get in touch with them, and how many investors do you have to pitch in order to close them?
We actually got in touch with them. One of the really great things about Dublin is that Niamh Bushnell, the Dublin Commissioner for Startups, is actively supporting the ecosystem, bringing companies together with venture capitalists. And she was the one who, she looks out for hot Dublin startups, I guess, and connects them with venture capitalists. So she was the one that made the introduction, and that was maybe 6 months ago. We met a few other investors, but I think we settled on Growing Capital because they were very supportive of what we were trying to do, and we felt that apart from the money, they would be able to add strategic value to our business.
Awesome. So you didn't have to go out there and pitch 90 investors then to close these guys?
We didn't. We also used a financial consulting firm to help us with introductions.
Oh, okay.
And that was really useful, actually, because they were able to do the pre-qualification of investors. So we ended up only meeting investors that had a genuine interest in understanding the company. And even if they weren't interested in investing in a seed round, they would be interested in an A round a little further down the tracks.
I would say that's probably the number one problem that people come to me trying to help with is how do they raise capital, and that's one alternative. Even here in the U.S. is to use kind of an intermediary, someone that has a lot of connections to investors and is willing to make introductions for a small financial incentive. So what did you guys have to pay them? Were you paying them some sort of an upfront fee, or was it like a percentage of the money raised?
Yeah, so it's a percentage of the money raised, but I think the most important thing for us is that they put us in front of people who wouldn't really give us the time of day as, one of another 500 startups
Right.
trying to pitch for money. So that qualification and that warm introduction was the single most important thing, I think, in actually being able to close the round.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, as a founder, you have a million other things to worry about. You're busy, you're working 10, 12 hours a day. It's hard to find the time to fundraise. So paying a small fee to someone to cut through all that BS and get you to the right people, to me, is still well worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even things like figuring out how to value the company, how much equity you should be giving away. As a founder of a tech company, unless you've been through it before, you're focused on product, you're focused on customer acquisition. And it's very difficult to, realistically value your own company. So having an independent person do that and doing so that it's credible to investors, it's just something that you couldn't really do on your own.
Awesome. So let's talk about the business. So you guys are 7 people right now. I know you're hiring rapidly. It's hard to find the talent over there, but talk to us about what your team has been able to accomplish so far. What are some of the clients that you guys work with, and how are they using Tenderscout on a daily basis?
So we've built our product. It's out in the wild, and people are using it right now to find opportunities, to see automatic qualification of those opportunities, and then using our templates and our customer service to actually compete for those opportunities. I guess a good example of one of our big successes most recently is that we were able to help a Canadian company, Super Simple Stories, to collaborate with an Irish company called Glasseye, both of them in the video production space, to compete for an opportunity for a company, a public utility in Wales in the UK. So we're actually shortlisted for that, and we're doing that in a couple of weeks. So those are the kind of companies that we're working with, and that's one of the ways that we're delivering value to them.
Cool. Now, like we mentioned in the pre-call, finding talent in Dublin has gotten harder because you are competing against Facebook and Google and Twitter and LinkedIn, and the list goes on. So how have you been able to find your people? What's been your recruiting strategy?
So the most important thing for anybody that's going to work with Tenderscout, I think, is that they have a can-do attitude, that they are motivated by the mission, and that they can see the potential and their ability to help realize the potential of the company. And I think the people that we've hired thus far, money and status in an organization is secondary to getting the job done. So I think we've been fortunate enough in the types of people that we have been able to attract, that they have that attitude. And, honestly, this isn't a company where you're going to make a lot of money today. It's really about having a passion for seeing the mission through and seeing the company grow and being an important part of that journey. So I guess we haven't really been competing directly with the Googles and the Slacks and the Workdays, all of whom are recruiting aggressively in Dublin. Because I guess the people that are going there are more concerned about stability and and maybe contributing to a company at a different level.
What have been some of the big wins? I'm sure you're constantly engaging with your clients and trying to get feedback on what you guys can, what you're doing right, what you can do better. But what are some of the success stories that you've heard so far from them?
So our clients would tend to win something in the region of 70% on average, of the contracts that they compete for. And those contracts can be anything from, $60,000, $50,000 to $30 or $40 million. We operate a process, so the value of the contract isn't as important as putting all of the pieces together. So we have had some clients being successful in contracts of up to $40 million and north of that. But I think most of our clients tend to be winning contracts in in the $100,000 region. I think what we look at as more of a measure of success is not that they can just win one opportunity, because anybody can be lucky once. It's really about developing a sustainable revenue stream. So they need to be winning constantly, and we look at a 70% success rate as the measure of success for us.
This is Jonah Lupton, founder of Jewel and host of the Startup Sense podcast. At Jewel, we help entrepreneurs and startup founders build, launch, and grow their companies by providing superior technology, marketing, and consulting services. We help clients of all sizes, budgets, and industries. We put our clients in the best position to raise capital, grow revenues, hire employees, and maximize their profits. For more information or to set up a free consultation with our team, please visit our website at jool.net. That's JOOL.net. What are some of these contracts? Like, what industry are they in, and what types of companies are going after them? Are these big companies going after them? Small companies? What part of the world? I mean, I assume since you guys are in Dublin, most of these are in Europe, but maybe you can kind of fill us in on the details.
Well, more recently, actually, most of our clients have been in the US and Canada, and I think that's in part because they're more willing to adopt technology solutions as part of the sales process, as has been our experience in the UK, Ireland, and Greater Europe. The types of contracts that our clients have been winning recently would have included things like a photography contract for a university's graduation program, websites for inward investment programs in some Irish regional centres, a large transportation contract with legal services associated with it. It's pretty much anything and everything, but I think most of the work that we've done most recently has been in the digital marketing, digital advertising space, where we've worked with some of the big brands there in putting proposals together for those strategies.
Cool. And what do you guys charge? What's your pricing model?
So we have a self-service model, which is €349 or about $400, and a $1,500 a month charge for companies that want us to do all of the finding, qualifying, and helping them compete for opportunities. And most of the customers that sign up at the $1,500 range per month, they're qualified by taking a strategic view around winning contracts. They see this as part of the revenue mix going forward. They see it as something that they need to invest in, and they're willing to be strategic about it.
Cool. So let's say, for instance, I own a company and I'm looking to go after some government contract work. I can pay you guys a $1,500 fee. Is that for each contract, or is that monthly or annually? And then you guys will actually do a lot of the work for me.
So that's monthly, and I guess it's irrelevant as to how many contracts that you would compete for that. But you tend to find that most companies only have the capacity to compete for maybe 2 or 3 in a month anyway. So I guess thus far the model has proven pretty scalable for us. But one of the challenges for the company going forward is to make sure that our pricing model and the service that supports is fit for purpose, it is scalable, and that we can continue to deliver value for our clients as we grow.
So this reminds me of when I have friends in the nonprofit space that are grant writers. It takes a special kind of expertise to fill out the grant forms and the proposals in order to essentially fight for grants for your nonprofit from large foundations and cities and stuff like that. I mean, this sounds similar, where the more bids, I guess, or tenders you've been involved with, you kind of know what to look for and how to answer questions. I mean, is that true, where you guys have special, you have now expertise?
It is. I mean, over the last 4 years, we would have participated in well over 1,000 competitions. So there's very little that we haven't seen. And we use that knowledge as new opportunities come in. We can very quickly scan them, very quickly take a 100-page RFP and distill it into the 2 pages of information that you need to respond to, and then support you with the templates that we have built up, templates that have been evaluated in multiple processes, and that helps you get maybe 70% of your proposal done for very little effort. And I think what we're trying to do then is ensure that other 30% of the time that you would need to spend, you're spending it on creating differentiation and creating value propositions and something that sets you apart from everybody else.
Now, I understand the $1,500 fee. Would you guys ever entertain doing some sort of a success fee on the back end if they win the project?
We have done that a few times, but we tend to, but because we are quite successful, it tends to work out that most of our clients, even if we do that for a trial period of 3 months or something, just to prove the value of the proposition, they very quickly transition to a flat monthly fee because they see the process, they see how much effort they need to do, and they're confident that we are delivering. But certainly in terms of proving the value proposition to clients, we have and we would continue to do a success fee component to our pricing.
Cool. What's been the biggest challenge for you so far over the last few years?
I think the biggest challenge has been our product market fit. And well, I guess a lot of people would say that what we're trying to do is something that a lot of companies find difficult to understand. First off, it's something that they've shied away from. And it's been quite difficult for us to demonstrate a value proposition to those companies. And it's also been quite difficult in terms of the competitors that we would have, tender alert type services, those online services that help you to find opportunities. It's been very difficult for us to get our marketing correct and our product positioning correct so that we're not competing against those companies, of which there are many, and we're competing alongside consultancy firms or sales automation solutions. So I think getting the product market fit would be the thing that's been most challenging over the last few years.
Now, how are you guys finding your customers? How have you found the majority of your clients thus far?
Actually, one of the great things about our database is as we are finding opportunities around the world, we're also finding the names of companies who have won contracts around the world. So today our database has maybe 3 million opportunities, and it has the names of over 750,000 companies who have won government contracts. Wow. And so we have outbound lead generation campaigns where we identify new and emerging opportunities that are similar to ones that these companies have won in the past. So they're great because because we know that they're qualified because they've competed for government contracts before and they've been successful, which shows that they have some sort of process in place. So a lot of the qualification criteria that we need are already met by all of those companies in our database.
So Tony, let's pretend that I have a 500 person company, and you've seen from your database that we have gone after government contracts before or landed government contracts. Who are the key contacts inside of my company that you'd want to talk to, that you would have your sales team go after?
So we're looking for the head of sales, or really as far up the chain as we can go. What we're trying to do is connect with a decision maker who can see the strategic value of building a revenue pipeline from the government sector, and who's willing to invest dollars in putting that revenue pipeline in place.
Awesome. Now, in terms of sales, do you guys actually have a dedicated sales team right now at your company, or are you mostly just doing digital marketing?
So we have a dedicated sales team. It's all outbound sales at the moment. What we do is we use our database of contract winners as a starting point. So for each new opportunity, we generate a list of prospects, companies that have won something similar in the past. We reach out to them through LinkedIn, through various email campaigns, hoping that some of them will come back and express an interest in the opportunity. And I think it works reasonably well for us because rather than just spamming people, we're giving them an opportunity that they may not have seen already. And even if they have, we're showing them that they're on our radar as well. And, potentially there's some value to be had in talking to us.
So we talked a little bit about the difficulties of recruiting in Dublin, only because it's gotten so competitive. You have those big Fortune 500 companies over there, kind of setting up their European presence in Dublin and competing for talent. But just in terms of scaling a startup in Dublin, what are some of the challenges, or what are some of the advantages?
Well, I guess some of the advantages is that you can be quite small for quite some time. You can make a lot of mistakes discovering your market and your product market fit in Dublin, and you can do that without drawing too much attention to yourself. On the downside, it's not always a good idea as a high growth startup to hide yourself. The funding environment is very different to that it might be in the US. Valuations are much lower. It is much more difficult to raise capital. In our experience, we found it very difficult to raise seed. That's not the experience of everybody, but and I think it's a little better now. But it was certainly a challenge for us. And moving on then to an A round, which we would be looking to in maybe 18 to 24 months. We are going to have to go to the US, I think, to close that round at an appropriate valuation.
What does the investor landscape in Dublin look like? Are there angel investors around, or is it mostly just small VC firms? Who's doing the majority of the $250,000 to $2 million investments?
So I think one thing that's quite interesting about the Irish landscape is that the government, through its vehicle Enterprise Ireland, co-funds a lot of seed investments. So if you can find a qualified investor to put up half of the money, Enterprise Ireland would put up the other half. That's what's happening with us. So that's a good way of, I guess, doubling the funding that you're getting. And that's a great support to companies starting out. There are VC companies, but they would probably have maybe up to 50 million to invest in their fund. So they're not looking to make big bets, but they're looking to make a number of reasonably small bets. When we look at what's happening in the US market, it's just a radically different scene. The scale is 10 times what it is in Ireland. And, for us to realize the ambition that we have for the company, I don't think that the investors that exist in the Irish landscape would really be willing to invest in helping us realize our ambition at that scale.
I mean, and what's the end game for you guys? Like, right? I mean, here in the US, there's traditionally three end games, right? You create a business that is profitable, has strong cash flows, so it's sustainable, and you build it into a big business, and all the owners and shareholders essentially get paid dividends over time. Or you can build a business that either gets acquired or potentially IPOs. So those are kind of the three end games or exit opportunities that I see in the US. What is it like in Ireland? Is there an IPO market? Are there acquisitions, or do you really have to build a business that can be profitable and self-sustaining?
Well, so all three are options. I think for us, what we want to do is we want to build annual recurring revenues of $50 million and then see what the options are for us. And that may be an acquisition by a larger company, or it may be that we are, there's still a lot of runway in what we want to do. There's a lot of opportunity there that we feel that we can exploit ourselves. Certainly, when I set up the company, it wasn't really to, I think it's the wrong thing to say, but it wasn't really to make money. It really was to make a difference to the lives of companies competing for government contracts. And I still see so much waste in that market that I really think, until we've cracked that, we're going to keep on this road. So an early exit is not really an option for us. And I guess after we, if we're lucky enough to get to 50 million ARR, the sky's the limit from there on.
Awesome. Do you have other friends that are starting startups in Ireland?
I do. In fact, I only seem to know people starting companies in Ireland. There's a buzz around the startup scene in Ireland, and there definitely is, coming out of the last financial recession. There's an awful lot of people who just feel that now is the time to set up their own companies. There's government supports to do that. There's plenty of co-working space around the city. And, there's an awful lot of people working on ideas. So there's a lot of energy going into the startup sector. I don't know if it's as structured and it's certainly not as well funded as it is in London or the West Coast. But there's as many good ideas and there's as many good entrepreneurs setting up companies.
Awesome. Because I think one problem that I've seen in the US, and I don't know how prevalent it really is, but there are so many people want to be entrepreneurs, and it's kind of sexy to say that you're a founder or an entrepreneur. And I think too many people try to start their own company rather than go join an existing startup and add value to their business. And it's like just sometimes the talent gets spread around too much. And I'm wondering if you're starting to see that in Dublin, where everybody wants to start their own company rather than go be an employee at an existing startup.
Well, I guess, when I talk to my entrepreneur peers, a common source of that conversation is, how are you managing to survive without any money, with nobody understanding what you're trying to do, and with the kids going hungry at home? So I don't know that any of the people that really get involved in it in any meaningful way would see it as particularly sexy. I certainly never think of myself as an entrepreneur or as a business founder. I'm just a guy working on a problem, and I happen to, have people on the road helping me realize, I guess, what is my vision. But, the labels of entrepreneur or founder or anything like that are kind of meaningless when you're out there hustling for money or hustling for customers or just trying to keep the company afloat.
What have been some of your biggest business challenges, right? You've built this technology based on machine learning. Maybe for the people listening, can you tell us more about what machine learning actually is?
Yeah, so I guess first off, the business that we're in, where we're taking a lot of government data and crunching it down and trying to make sense of it, isn't the sexiest of businesses to be in. A lot of people, find it difficult to understand why we're doing it and what the value might be out of it. So I guess the biggest business challenge that we had in the first couple of years was trying to explain our value proposition and how we could extract value from this mountain of data. When we started adding the machine learning capabilities into the solution, and we started using feedback loops to infer patterns and future behaviors from what's gone on in the past, that's where it starts to become a little bit interesting. And when we were able to start predicting the winners of competitions, I think that's when some people started to sit up and say, maybe there's actually something in this. So I guess that's where the machine learning is starting to become quite interesting. And even now we're desperately trying to recruit data scientists to help us understand the value in this mountain of data that we've collected, because I'm pretty sure we're just touching the tip of an iceberg here. So that's something that we've got to figure out.
And is the software or the machine learning technology or algorithms, whatever it runs on, is that something that will continue to get better and better over time?
It is, yeah. So the more data that we have, the more, I guess, the more intelligence that we're gathering, the more feedback we can put into it. Right now, what we're doing is we're trying to build more mechanisms whereby our customers can start adding in whether that's their performance in previous competitions, whether it's information from them, how they value the relationships or how they rate the relationships that they have with their clients, and using all of that, weighting that information and using that to figure out what might happen in the future and what might be a good, what are good prospects for them to compete for. I guess it's quite interesting. It's a very nebulous sort of challenge to try and to crack. But now that we've got a lot of data, and while we didn't have a lot of data, but now we have a lot of data to try and figure out what these answers might be, or even what the questions we should ask might be.
What is your number one business goal for 2017 with regards to Tenderscout?
So 2017 business goal is to build a high-performing management team. So I'm looking for people who are highly talented, but also have that get things done attitude. People who are willing to take a chance on a startup and who are willing to be part of something interesting.
And do you think you'll be able to find that talent in Dublin? And I'm sure the talent's there, but I guess finding it and recruiting it's the hard part, right?
I think the talent is there. I just sometimes wonder, is the attitude there? Have we got enough people who've been exposed maybe to the US mentality, who have an ambition to grow a company to $50 or $100 million? So I think there's a little bit of a challenge in finding people who can imagine that sort of future and who have the talent to make it happen. And
it sounds like you're going to have to raise more money in the near future, probably in the next 18 months, like you said. And I know you referenced the U.S. Do you think you'll be able to raise that capital in Dublin, or there's just no doubt you're going to have to try to raise it in the U.S.?
Well, our biggest market is in the U.S., and I think it's appropriate that we raise our capital in the U.S. as well. Our goal is to be in the U.S. in the very near future, on the West Coast and on the East Coast as well, and servicing customers, domestically from that point on. So having the support of domestic venture capitalists in the US, where we're servicing our customers, our primary market, I think it's the right thing for us. I think it means that we're getting the right type of support, we're getting the right type of soft support beyond the money, and it'll also help us, raising in future rounds.
And I guess last question here, since you are a SaaS company, what are some of the metrics that you look at on a daily basis?
Well, it's all the usual ones, I guess, but MRR is something that I do obsess over. Churn is something as well that I do look at, but not so much, because I guess as we've been evolving our model, as we've been changing our pricing, and as we've been changing our service offering, I guess we found that some customers are less profitable than others. Some get better value out of our services than others do. So I guess at this stage in our growth, so long as we're recruiting the right type of customer going forward, I'm more concerned about MRR and the cost of customer acquisition right now than I am about churn. That's going to become pretty important in maybe time.
Do you have any idea what that cost of customer acquisition is right now?
I do. It's about 10% of the annual value of a customer.
That's pretty good. That's pretty low.
That's pretty good, but we would spend maybe 30% of the annual cost of a customer on customer retention right now. So that's quite a bit, and we need to get that down, and we're hoping that we will do that by building more features into the technology so that customers are better able to service their own needs without needing back-end support.
Anything we missed that you wanted to mention? Certainly, the website, tenderscout.com. Are you on any social media?
You'll find me on Twitter at tenderscout.com, and I guess I'm most active on LinkedIn.
Okay.
That's where you will find me.
Okay, I'll put all that stuff in the show notes. Well, thank you, Tony, man. Sorry we had to cut this, cut the podcast up into 2 days, but we got a blizzard and couldn't really prevent the power from going out. So I appreciate your time today and yesterday, and certainly want to wish you the best. And once you guys kind of do that full launch in the U.S. after raising another round, please come back and tell us about it.
That's great. We're delighted to, Jonah. Thank you.
You got it, man. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.